Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to check out another of the brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dino Escape figures that have just recently started to hit targets across the United States. This one is the Mega Destroyer's Carcharodontosaurus. On top of being at Target, this one will also be showing up at Walmart, as I just actually left Walmart and there is a tag present for the Carcharodontosaurus as well as the upcoming Savage Strike figures. And, of course, the Extreme Damage, Indominus, the Stegosaurus, a whole bunch of stuff is going to be at Walmart as well as at Target. I was able to acquire this figure, luckily thanks to having good friends like Greg from Dino Scream Reviews, who was able to hook me up with this as he had it in his area. I unfortunately do not actually have it in my area quite yet, even though the tags are present. It's not here, unfortunately. So a huge shout out and thank you goes out to Greg for hooking me up with this figure. I was kind of on the fence about this one, honestly. I wasn't too sure how I felt about it. You know, a lot of the images at first had me a little disappointed because I didn't really like the sculpt all that much. And then when I had seen some images after, I kind of started to change my mind and I actually thought it looked really cool. Then I saw some more images of people actually starting to find it in store and get it in hand. And it was kind of back to my initial feeling where I wasn't a huge fan of it. And I can say that straight away, looking at it out of the packaging, the detailing aspect on the figure is really quite nice, quite vibrant. However, I'm still not entirely sold on it, honestly. I think the head sculpt just looks weird, kind of goofy looking, and this leg also just looks a little strange. Like right here specifically, this area right here with the leg, I don't know, something about it just seems odd. Maybe it just needs to be positioned better on the figure. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, again, yet how I feel about the figure here. I haven't actually taken it out fully, so I'm only, of course, viewing one side, but it looks, kind of nice. The paint scheme is definitely awesome, and I love the kind of throwback to Jurassic World Evolution with the paint scheme and, of course, just generally copying the style of the Carcharodontosaurus from that game, but I don't know exactly how sold I am quite yet on the figure, but the box art, as usual, when it comes to the Dino Escape line, is just fantastic, as all of the box art has been so far from the Dino Escape line. And then here on the back, you can see some images kind of displaying some of the action features that we have for our Carcharodontosaurus. And then down here, we also have an image of the Stegosaurus, that is the other Mega Destroyer figure out currently. So let's go ahead, pop this out of its box, and take a look at it. So here is our Carcharodontosaurus. We're going to position it from the opposite side now, since we had already seen the initial side, and then of course the capture gear that comes with it. And honestly, again, it's really just kind of 50-50 for me. Like, I like some aspects of the model, but others not so much. Like, mostly that head sculpt. I just really am not a big fan of the head sculpt on the figure. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't pinpoint it. Maybe it's just like, I don't know, the way the upper jaw just almost comes out like over the lower jaw so far. It just looks really weird to me. But the paint scheme is definitely very appealing. One of the nicer paint schemes on the part of the Mattel line, so that's a plus. And I love the kind of like quill-like ridges running down the back. The tail length actually looks pretty decent on this one. Again, not quite as long as it should be, but not terrible either. So, still pretty fun looking, at first glance. So let's go ahead and get a closer look, and then we'll truly be able to tell just how nice it is from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Carcharodontosaurus, again, like I was saying, there is some actually really nice detailing to the face, like the scale detail, specifically here on the lower jaw, is really vibrant, like beautiful as far as the way it just pops on the model. But the detailing up here on the face, it looks okay. It's a little muted, I would say, but not bad, definitely decent looking. But just generally the overall, like, head shape of the figure is just, I don't know what it is. It's just weird looking to me. It just doesn't look Carcharodontosaurus-like or, very appealing in general. I don't know why. I just don't really like it very much. But the eye is painted beautifully, actually, with a nice brown coloration, giving a nice pupil right there. Tough to tell if that pupil is a black pupil or if it's just the darker brown, but it's glossed beautifully as well. Definitely like that. And as far as the coloration goes, again, we have like this kind of like tannish color here for the underside, and then we have like some hints of the orange as well as some dark brown stripes that stripe into the face. Again, very reminiscent of the Jurassic World Evolution version. And then you can also see like some speckles, kind of those trademark Mattel speckles showing up here and there as well. If you open the mouth, you can see the teeth look pretty nice for the most part. They're not bad as far as a sculpting aspect goes, and the paintwork seems okay from a sloppiness standpoint. Like, it doesn't look sloppy at all, actually. It looks pretty nice. The inside of the mouth also has a really nice, very realistic coloration in there. As you can see, like a shade of a dark pink. Same deal for the upper side of the inside of the mouth. Also has that dark pink coloration in there. And everything does have a really nice gloss coat to it. I will say that I'm surprised that the tongue isn't as nice as you would expect. Like, there's not really much of a texturing to it. It almost looks like the tongue that would have been on an early Mattel Jurassic World figure, where they weren't really textured very well, but then Mattel jumped up in the overall quality of the inside of the mouths of their figures and really started to nail it as far as the detailing aspect of, like, say, the tongues and stuff, really giving them beautiful textured tongues, but you don't see that here on this one. And I also don't know why they did not include teeth all the way around here on the lower jaw, like they just end abruptly, and then there's an area where it's only the gums. Very strange as far as that goes. But the head sculpt, again, from some angles, it doesn't look bad. Like, looking at it right here, it actually looks all right, but I don't know, I think I was expecting it to be better than it is. You can see up here on the top of the head, we have like a lot of kind of bumps or osteoderms up here that just kind of litter the entire top of the head of our Carcharodontosaurus. As you start to lead back into the neck, you can see more of those kind of ridges or osteoderms run the back here of the neck and then start to taper off. And you can also see almost quill-like ridges that run along the spinal column of the dinosaur, which I really like that aspect of it. Again, very reminiscent of the Jurassic World Evolution style Carcharodontosaurus, and it looks really nice on this figure as well. You also have some really nice texturing to the skin as you move down the course of the neck, kind of like some nice skin wrinkles, and the throat in general is elaborated down here on the underside of the neck here. It looks really nice. The coloration continues to look quite beautiful, very nice and naturally applied, and I really like how some areas kind of have like the orange popping up, even within the darker brown. Definitely looks really neat. And then as you move down into the body, again, the scale detail is actually phenomenal. As you reach the body itself, you can see that scale detail pops in a really, really nice way. As you move down into the arms are very nice and muscular looking, like you would expect them to be. Nicely sculpted hands. Unfortunately, no nail paint on the hands, which, is to be expected, I would say. You can also see the elbows are sculpted out quite nicely. We do have a speckling as far as the coloration goes here on the arms and hands. As you move back up into the stomach region, again, more gorgeous texturing to the skin in the stomach. You can see like a little bit of like skin wrinkling increasing here at the area where the arm meets the body, and then as you move up here, you can see more of those ridges as well as the button for the action feature. And then you can continue to see how that brown and orange stripes down along the body, which is definitely really cool to see. As we reach the leg, you can see that again the actual detailing is just incredible looking as far as just how vibrant it is, how good it pops on the figure. You can see the kneecap present right there. Definitely has some nice muscle definition displayed in both the thigh and calf region. The foot sculpt also looks quite nice, some nice scoots down the toes, and you again have no paint on the nails, but the nails do kind of have a glossy look to them, so that is a plus, almost sort of giving it that real nail-like shine, which is, at least a plus as far as that goes. You can see more of those speckles down here on the feet, even running out onto the toenails as well. You do, of course, have dew claws, which is a good thing to have. But again, this leg, like, look at the way the leg sticks off of the body right here. Like, that's very strange. It looks super thin, almost like sickly, and very, very awkward as far as the appearance goes, and it doesn't like go in a very nice natural way. Like, no matter what I do, it just looks really weird. Some more gorgeous detailing here to the underside though, some really nice movement in the skin and everything, kind of like some skin wrinkles. As we lead out here into the tail, you can start to see how the orange tapers off. Now we just have like this kind of tannish color and then the dark brown, but I love that the dark brown does run out onto the tail, especially up here at the top of the tail, like along that ridge line. It looks really, really nice as far as that goes. And you can also see those kind of like quill-like ridges taper off as we move out the length of the tail. The tail does end in a really nice curve there at the tip, which looks pretty cool. And then if we go to the other side, again, being an articulated figure, you're not going to see too much difference. It looks almost pretty much just like it did on the initial side, which is definitely nice to see. Again, if we move the leg back, you can see more of like the detailing here in the stomach. really beautiful, like skin wrinkles and skin folds and stuff showing up here on this side in the stomach region, which is a huge plus as far as, just showing that extra amount of detail. Even the underside, look at how nice that scale detail looks. Like, it really, really pops. The Mattel figures have just been getting increasingly better as far as how good the detail looks on the figures and how much it pops on the actual sculpts. Like, it's just really, really vibrant. And you can see again the very nice muscle definition on this side in the leg. The leg is forward a little bit further in comparison to the opposing leg, but pretty much looks the same, of course, just opposite. The foot looks nice scoots again down the course of the toes. No nail paint, of course. That would be ridiculous if they painted one side and not the other. The leg looks a little weird on this side, but I don't think it looks quite as weird as it does on the opposing side. But again, the detailing here as you move out the length of the tail definitely looks really, really nice, and the paintwork does as well, even though there we go, it's not matching up right there. But we also have a really highly detailed sculpt here to the underside. There is actually the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection. But again, really beautiful detailing throughout pretty much the entire figure. I honestly think the only thing I'm a little iffy on would be the head sculpt and that one leg, but it's still a pretty appealing figure, and it is really fun to actually have a Carcharodontosaurus in the Jurassic World line. Definitely awesome to finally have one. And then we, of course, have our actual capture gear, which looks really cool. Again, very similar to the capture gear that came with the Tyrannosaurus Rex recently, and it looks beautiful from a detailing standpoint. Like, it's not overly detailed, but it looks about as good as you would expect it to. Very nice metallic appearance to it and everything. Quite nicely detailed, about what you would expect. And it looks pretty fun, so let's go ahead and check it out on the actual Carcharodontosaurus right now. So once you get your capture gear on your Carcharodontosaurus, you can see it's very nicely applied. It fits quite nicely for the most part. We'll then hit the button, and it will not come off of his neck. Okay, there we go. It does not work quite as nicely as the Tyrannosaurus capture gear did, that's for sure. But, it was pretty fun, and it's just generally awesome to have capture gear included, something that we've been severely lacking in most Jurassic lines since, of course, Kenner. But we'll throw this back on once more and do that again. So it actually does take some work at times to get that off. There we go. So, kind of a realistic aspect. I'm sure if the dinosaur were trying to escape and break its capture gear, it wouldn't just throw it right off instantly. It's got to work at it a little bit. So I guess it makes sense that it kind of takes some effort to get it off and works okay. But in my opinion, I only really am happy about it as far as like a display standpoint. It's not something that I personally would be playing with. So as far as a display standpoint goes, it's definitely awesome. As far as articulation goes on our Carcharodontosaurus, you do have the articulated jaw, which works really quite nicely. That, of course, is part of the action feature. You also have articulation in the neck, which, again, is part of the action feature. We have articulation in the arms, which move very nicely forward and back and out away from the body, as usual. The typical articulation in Mattel figures, you have the articulation here moving forward and back in the legs. We also have the swivel here in the ankle. And we have tail articulation, which can swivel and do all kinds of fun stuff, whatever you would like to do with it. And then as far as the action feature goes, we have a button up here on the top, which we will press. And that head really comes down for that snapping feature, like really, really far. It doesn't snap very well. There we go. Every once in a while it snaps pretty good. Now it's snapping pretty well. But you can't have it come down and just keep the mouth open, which could be kind of fun for, like, posability, but still a pretty fun action feature, just your standard as far as a Mattel figure goes. Nothing incredible or innovative with it, just a fun snapping action feature and some very nice articulation. As far as a size goes for our Carcharodontosaurus, it definitely does have some decent size. You were looking at lengthwise about 14.5 inches or around 36.5 centimeters. And then for a height, when it's standing at this comfortable position, which you're not really going to be seeing at all, apparently from your vantage point, but you're looking at right around 7 inches or about 18 centimeters roughly. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Mega Destroyers Carcharodontosaurus, and hopefully helping to give you a good idea of the size. Pretty much like your standard size as far as this type of figure goes, similar in size to the Suchomimus that Mattel has released previously, and definitely a really good sized figure. If you're looking for a nicely sized Carcharodontosaurus, this would be a pretty good way to go because it's definitely the largest one in my collection. Not the most appealing one, but definitely the largest, and it's in general awesome to have, such a nicely sized Carcharodontosaurus entering the Jurassic World line. So although this Carcharodontosaurus certainly isn't my favorite Mattel figure ever, it's not a bad figure. It's definitely nice, but has some issues for sure. Like, I really don't know exactly what it is about that head sculpt that I'm just not really sold on it. Again, it doesn't look terrible. It definitely doesn't look near as bad as I was thinking it was going to from all of the images and stuff that I had seen leading up to this point. But it's also not near as nice as I was expecting from Mattel. So the head sculpt is definitely a bit of a downside if you ask me, but at the same time, it's still a pretty fun looking head sculpt, just not as nice as I was hoping for. I think that's kind of like my issue. It has a little bit of a goofy look to it overall, but if you move past the head sculpt, the majority of the figure looks great from a detailing standpoint and also really quite nicely matches up to the Jurassic World evolution style Carcharodontosaurus, of course, in the paint job, but also the sculpt, as that dinosaur had kind of like those quill-like ridges running along the back of the animal, and that's definitely nicely displayed on this figure here from Mattel. And the detailing aspect is really, really gorgeous as far as like the scale detail. Like if you look at the lower jaw or the thigh leading down into the calf and some of the areas in the stomach or even out onto the tail, like that scale detail just pops in a very, very nice way, very appealing to the eye. And the only other area of the sculpt that I would say is a downside is the right leg, because the right leg just has a very awkward appearance, very thin and strange, and I don't know why it sits that way on the figure, but I definitely would have preferred it looking a little thicker and a little bit nicer on the figure, but that is, again, just a little bit of a minor nitpick. The paint job is excellent. I really love the paint application of the figure. I think Mattel did a fantastic job in every area that I can see as far as the paint job goes. Of course, except for the fact that we don't have nail paint on the hands or feet, but that's something, again, that's also to be expected at this point. If you've been collecting the Mattel line for quite a few years, you come into the Mattel line knowing that you're not going to get much nail paint or anything. But we did get paint out onto the tail, so that is a huge plus as far as that goes, because that's something we haven't previously gotten many times. And we also have, in general, a very nice, appealing to the eye paint scheme on the figure overall. Really beautiful tones of color used, and again, very reminiscent of the Jurassic World evolution Carcharodontosaurus. The addition of the capture gear is always a huge plus if you ask me. I really wish Mattel would utilize the capture gear on more dinosaurs, not just the few that they have so far, and I really hope that they continue to use capture gear moving forward on a lot of their releases. In fact, I would love it if it was on every release. Just, that fun little extra just amps up the overall appeal factor of every release that Mattel has it included in, just by a mile if you ask me, because it's so nostalgic, really takes you back to the early days of the Jurassic line, and in my opinion is just the perfect extra to be added into any Jurassic line, because especially from like a playability standpoint, I know when I was a child and I actually played with my Jurassic Park figures, I loved the addition of capture gear. So as an adult, and a collector of that line, anytime capture gear is included, it is just like that perfect amount of nostalgic joy that just takes me straight back to my childhood. So I love the capture gear. I love the dinosaur aside from a few minor areas, and it is much better than I expected it to be, just not perfect. But if you are interested in this, again, make sure you head to your local Target or Walmart. It will be showing up in both of those places, so it's only a matter of time. If it's not there now, it should be soon. Again, a huge thank you goes out to Greg from Dino Scream Reviews, who helped me to acquire this a little bit earlier than I probably would have had I actually waited for it to show up in my area. So props to him for being the man and hooking me up with this. And make sure you guys check your local Walmart and Target, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.